And
Hmm.
okay, welcome, Niklas. Thank you so much for
Thanks for
joining
having me.
me. Yes, and we're so excited to have you and Accession at our festival. Brighton Rocks is going to love it. It's a fabulous film. And can you please tell me how to pronounce it in Swedish, please? The title.
We'll try our hand at it. It's efterträde.
Efferetrada. Am I even
Yeah,
close?
close-ish. It's adjacent to there.
It's
Yeah.
adjacent. So let's actually, can we just touch on that for a moment? The
Hmm.
title. Why the title?
Yeah. So there's a multitude of reasons. Uh, Accession is like the closest translation I could find. In Swedish, it also means not only accession, as in like ascending to a throne. It also means someone. We have this thing called förträde, which is you leave space for someone to go before you, and efterträde would be the complete opposite, as in you go before someone or you prioritize yourself. Like in the context of, for example, in a line, you would like you would cut the line. You would do efterträde, essentially for the other person. That got really confusing, possibly.
No, I think I understand.
Right.
So this is the part of the journey, right?
Hmm.
That then leads you to the top, basically, or the
Right.
end. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, so in the film, right?
Hmm.
Um we have obviously a death, right? And that death is essentially that's the pinnacle. That's where this person, right, and we all will wind up one day, right? But- so let's talk about I loved how you made the decisions to use realism and surrealism. Okay, was the choice to do this um based on uh, your perception of how people feel about the knowledge that that's where we're all going one day, right? And I'll let you explain that in more detail. But is that why you mix the two? We have the reality and we have something else, right? The
Right.
surrealism.
Hmm. So there's this obvious answer where you would be able to explain it by partly that it's inspired by a dream that I had. Uh, but there's also, I think, a big point to make there where it's like death in itself is such a big mystery. It's like one of life's, or well, not life's greatest mysteries. Everyone thinks about it to a certain degree, some people more than others. I myself am very obsessive about that topic at times. And so since it's such a big mystery, I feel as though the storytelling should also be woven in mystery to kind of reflect how mysterious death really is, and how like abstract it really feels. Like you can't really think of what it would be like to be dead. It's very impossible to even imagine.
Exactly. So we can only speculate,
Right.
and we only know who's left behind, right? We only know that aspect. We don't
Mhm.
know what's um now and you can answer as freely as you want, or say I don't want to go there. That's absolutely fine, but I wonder if this is coming from a personal place, and where something that's happened recently or in the past in your own life that you were trying to potentially work through or make sense for yourself.
Hmm. Well, there's, I would say, like an amalgamation of several things that both I have been through and also loved ones have been through. Where, for example, the dream I had was about a loved one's deceased father, who I met in this cottage, which is loosely where the film takes place, where I met him and had this heartfelt conversation where I had a complete change of heart and had all these insights because he told me things that he hadn't realized prior to his passing. But there's also, like, strangely enough, first, before I started writing the script, a friend of mine passed away, but then also during the production, another one passed. So there was a lot of death surrounding like the whole production as well, in a way. Also, those two friends have prior been acting in films of mine, which made it all like seem even more uncanny in a way.
Wow. I mean, and I'm sorry to, to hear for you, but also, uh, there's a fine line between, in my opinion, it's sort of, scary or devastating and beautiful.
Hmm.
So all of these things are happening maybe for a reason. It is all,
Right.
and it's all,
Hmm.
part of the universe, a part of our makeup, a part of,
Hmm.
the intertwining between life and death and relationships.
Hmm.
So let's talk about the relationships of the characters within the film.
Hmm.
So we have arguments happening, right, surrounding the after the death of the father, right?
Hmm.
Why is that? Why are we going there? Why did you want to write that in?
Hmm. Well, that as well, I think, is influenced by several factors. Partly that I wanted to capture the essence of how petty arguments very often are, and how very small things can escalate to the point of being almost ridiculous. Um, there's also, I think, a reason to be made where both of the characters are struggling in some way or another, and they are not able to be there for each other, but they struggle so hard to be there for each other that they do the complete opposite because they're trying too hard and it just all falls apart.
Yeah, yeah, and I related very, very much to that because, and I think many people will, and sometimes people just don't know what to say or how to behave in when somebody close to you passes, or you're close to the person who that has happened
Hmm.
to, and that person's close to the person who's passed. So it's, yeah, I really love that you incorporated that aspect of humanity, where it's fragile, and you can see how they're really trying to help each other, but in turn, you know
Hmm.
are doing kind of the opposite in the moment, but things change.
Definitely.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the animation, and why you chose to put that, and strategically put that where you put
Hmm.
the animation in the film, because it was a lovely surprise.
Right. Yeah. So it actually was an addition that I did very late in the film. Uh, I felt for several reasons that this narrative was lacking a sort of clarity, but also lacking intensity, because she is, after all, like to some degree contemplating suicide, and so I wanted to really, really up the intensity and also sort of catch everyone off guard. And I wanted the whole scene to be like a slap in the face, essentially, visually and musically and in every sense that I could.
And it did. It was really effective, and I really appreciated that moment, and the music. Let's talk about the music. The music felt very, very personal. Brought it to a whole nother level of intensity. That's a really good word for it. So let's talk about that, and when in the process did the music come about, and
Mm,
how was it developed? Yeah.
mhm. So there is, first of all, the cello music that is added throughout the film. That was composed partly by a composer that is a friend of mine, and the producers, I think, aunt, maybe it was some relative of his, actually played the cello. So we recorded that, and that together, spliced together with some royalty free samples and some this and that from all kinds of sources, end up being this soundtrack. Then there's also the ending track that was written by Andrew Paley and performed by Days and Days, that I am really, really excited about having in the film.
Yeah, that was so effective and so wonderful. I'm so yeah, that was a great choice. Now, did you do the musical soundscape at the end, or is this something that you were thinking about prior?
Right. So for some reason, the cello music came earliest of all, because as I was writing the script, I started like adding all these attributes to the characters in the back of my mind, and I was thinking that Alice, the character, would be playing the cello. I'm not sure why, but I wanted her to be like in some way into arts or music or something creative. So then I picked the cello for some reason, and I wanted that to be reflected in the soundtrack. On top of it, there's the music by Days and Days, and that's because I'm a huge fan of the band. I'm also a huge fan of that particular track by Andrew Paley. And as I was writing the script, I was listening to that song a lot. I was taking like evening runs, and I would listen to it on repeat. And that made me make the decision to even name my character Caroline, and that's because of the song, so not the other way around. And through some strange twist of fate, I managed to actually make it happen so that we could have Days and Days and Andrew Paley featured in the film.
That's so cool. And so, and isn't it funny how other art forms, influence what you're doing at different times? That's brilliant. I love that
Definitely.
Caroline was named from the song,
Right.
not the other way around.
Right.
That's brilliant. What other let's talk about the visual aspects of the film. So the visual language, let's look at that. So uh we now know a bit about where some other forms, music has influenced the film itself and the trajectory of what of the character names even,
Hmm.
um and their journey. But let's talk about the visual language. Are there examples of filmmakers or art forms that have yeah, given a bit of influence to the visual language in the film?
I think there definitely are a lot of influences, but I think even like when you are not consciously inspired by something, you are influenced constantly by different inputs that you like through consuming different forms of media and such. I think I was very, at the time, inspired by there's this film that I think may have inspired me to do the animated part. I'm not sure, however. I just it might be like a construction in my own head afterwards, like an explanation for it. But I saw this film called The Girl in the Yellow Jumper, which is a
Yeah.
excellent film from Uganda, uh,
Yes.
which the director's name escapes me now, but it's really cool. On top of it, I'm very eclectic in my taste, so I think that really visually also shows, because I watch a lot of campy horror movies, but a lot of art house. I watch a lot of comedies as well. Like it's very eclectic, and so I think the visuals then become very eclectic, and I kind of wanted them to be, in a sense, eclectic, but still somehow fitting together.
Yeah, and they do. They do. They really it's sort of again, the mix between the kind of surreal and the eclectic and the realism, it just works. And I think that that's really risk taking, and which I love. That's one of the reasons why Brighton Rocks loves the film as well. Generally speaking, is just because it's risk taking, and it's yeah, we're kind of pulling in from a lot of different places that seem to all gel together beautifully. Um, Sweden, it's can I just ask,
Yeah.
let's see, uh, sort of what is and this is, maybe we could use this or not. It doesn't make a big difference, but I'm curious. There's things if I'm not wrong, and please correct me if I am, but in Sweden where we have things um s- like the Swedish death cleaning and things like that, where we're kind of saying, there's people, am I wrong? And people that pack up like someone's belongings. That's the kind of definitive,
Mm, mm,
like,
mm.
say goodbye, and then we know then it's almost a final chapter here on Earth,
Oh
or
yeah,
here on,
definitely.
right?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's a Swedish thing, but yes, it definitely is. I actually saw this ad on a wall not long ago that says like we buy. It's called dödsbon. It means like death. I don't know, like death houses, death living spaces. I don't know. I don't know how to translate it, but that was so weird to me how it's just I don't know, they were so bold to just advertise it on all over a wall like that.
Well, I think that that's kind of amazing though, because I think it is a Swedish thing, and I think
Right.
that 'cause I don't we don't do that. We don't do that. I'll only speak for the States, and I don't do that in England really either. Where but it's embracing it rather than, oh, I don't want to talk about this. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, you're not leaving things to the last minute. We're actually saying this is a part of life
right.
and death, and
Hmm.
this is the whole full circle thing, and that's
Right.
what I really always appreciated about Sweden as well, is that embracing of it rather than shying away. Would you say that, like, because you say as well that you have a bit of an obsession about the
Mm,
afterlife?
yeah.
Do you think it's because of the influence of Sweden or your family or just life in general, or what do you think it's because of?
I think again it's also an amalgamation of like me being a bit of a neurotic, but also probably like there is reminders everywhere in our culture, I guess. Like if you just look at the biggest director from Sweden of all time, Ingmar Bergman, like all of his films are about death essentially, or like him somehow making amends with Christianity. Like that's his core themes constantly. And so I feel as though there might be a truth to that. You can't really not be reminded of it in Sweden. So that might have shaped me more than I realize.
Quite possibly. I know for the short amount of time I spent there, it really blew me away, but I thought it was so cool. I was like, "Wow, this is a real part of life." The death is a real part of life here,
Mhm.
and I just found it absolutely fascinating. Um, yeah, so that's interesting. That is interesting. That maybe, some of this has come and subconsciously because, you know, can I ask personally, what are your views on what happens after?
That's like I am at heart a skeptic that would think the most likely scenario would be just complete and utter darkness and like a void. But I try to tell myself that there's more to it, because and I tend to cling to these articles where some really shady pseudoscientist is claiming that we have proved that there's life after death, because but that's just the neurotic side of me, I think, fixating on it so much, because I tend to like Google things like how long is the average lifespan of Swedish males born 1992 and stuff like that.
Right, right. But it is fascinating.
Yeah,
I think, like, if you do go down that rabbit hole, you have to pick and choose what you believe and
right.
what might be nonsense. Yeah, yeah, but it might be and nobody knows. So you have to sort of form your own, yeah, your own opinion on it. Um, so in terms of when people see the film, what would you hope that they sort of walk away with, if anything at all?
Mhm. Well, I think it's really at its core a film about the, like caring for your loved ones and really thinking about what matters to you in the end, and like to a point it's also about just like cutting off all the bullshit and all the pettiness and letting go and forgiving and being the best version of yourself, as cliche as it may sound. It's like because life is so complex and yet so almost like it's so simple in some ways. Like everyone that you come across everywhere will talk about their family or their loved ones constantly. Like if they talk in people talk in an interview, some way or another a loved one will always be mentioned somewhere in there, and I think that's because it's at our core really.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think, like, cutting through the bullshit, like, that is what is important. I mean, and you don't wait until maybe, you only have a certain amount of time to if you have the luxury of knowing that, you know what I mean? We're here to, if tell me if you agree to, we want to be the best people we can be. We want to share with other people. We want to learn from other people. That's that's really where it counts, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree, and I also think there's this there's this thing where we will always tell each other that we have time for each other, and then we really don't, because everyone's so busy with everything. And I mean, social media and constant, like, constant information just flowing towards us at high speeds probably contribute to that. And I feel, to me, my film is a little bit my slightly cowardly attempt at, I guess, apologizing in a metaphorical sense for my lack of actually following up on saying, like, yeah, we should totally hang out someday, to people constantly, you know.
Well, you know what? Or it's kind of the realization or the eye opener for yourself that maybe now's the time to start. Do you know what I mean? Like follow up with the people and just make that effort. Because after seeing the film and after this conversation, that will ring in my head. That will stay in my head, right? And I'll make more of an effort, likely, because it is important, and we are all too busy and trying to do this and that and the other, and not really just sitting meeting somebody that you love or a friend and having a conversation, or somebody that you've just met and having a brilliant conversation as well. You know what I mean? Taking that time to be present is so important. It's so important. So
Definitely.
I also want to ask you as well about the production of it, because I know you did a lot
Yeah.
yourself, which
Yeah.
okay. And I wonder what that experience was like for you to be doing so much of it. I know not all of it, but a good chunk of it by yourself, but also why it was so important to do that. To
Mm,
because that's a lot of work. I know it's a lot
yeah.
of work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh I mean, to me, I've for a very, very long time have worked very much like a one man army, where I do a lot of like, I wear very many hats, both metaphorically and obviously in a more literal sense. But it's because, first of all, it's very hard to find people when you have almost zero budget to do the more boring things, but also the more interesting things, because everyone's so busy again all the time. Uh, and also, I think the things that really, really matters most to me in my film, I don't really want to give away to someone who might not get my vision. So it's a bit of a, like, me being a control freak, but also lacking the finances to do it any other way. So I think it's both.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree. Like it's important to have your vision close to your chest. Maybe one day you might meet, for the next thing you might meet people that who knows. But also it's a really great concept that I like to think about a lot is, and in an independent film we know a lot of people don't have a ton of money. So how do you, what's more important? Is it the feeling or the message behind the story, or is it the big the big flashy
Mhm,
blockbustery
mhm.
stuff? I know what I think. You know what I mean?
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Um, I feel when a product becomes too commercialized, it tends to lose a lot of essence. Unfortunately, it doesn't have to, but that's the path that people have to take, I guess, to get enough views and to get enough resources back, because those big blockbusters cost so much that you can't really take any risks then either.
yeah, exactly. That's right. So now it's a whole nother game, right? Of fitting into
Right,
certain things where we, as independent filmmakers, have more of a freedom to experiment,
right,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, yeah, which I love. I love that. Um, what else? What's next for one thing? What's next for you? Do you think?
Mm, right now, I am collaborating with a friend of mine. We're working on a pilot episode for a series that is gonna be filmed like a vlog, but it will be about a genie that makes wishes come true. But he then has someone wish for him to make a vlog, so he reluctantly has to vlog about his life, and that's sort of it in a nutshell.
That sounds really cool. That sounds great. So is kind of your goal, to take certain aspects of the human side of the human psyche and human nature and just kind of run with particular moments in life or different characteristics, or it seems like the different projects that you're describing, and certainly Accession, are about specific moments or specific human characteristics that you
Mhm.
want to explore. Like, is that true?
I think so, to a big degree. I very often say to people that I am very obsessed with the. Well, first of all, I'm obsessed with humans in general. I read so many autobiographies and things, and I watch all the uh, biographies that are filmed. Like I consume documentaries about people. I'm very obsessed with people. Secondly, I often say that when I watch something like The Lord of the Rings, I'm more obsessed with when they sit at a campfire and talk to each other than like a big battle. Like that's the part I want to see. I would love to see more films that are just about that. That's like at the core of it, and that would be the whole film. They could be sitting there for 3 hours just talking about life, and I would be sold. So I think that's very much it.
I love that because it's again about being present. It's about
Mhm.
listening, and it's about actual interaction, right? Rather
Definitely.
than, yeah, which I'm really happy we're discussing because it's so important. It
Oh, it
is.
really is. And that's the thing too. When we filmed this short film, we had so many like such intimate connections with other people that were like really beautiful. Like we, with all the actors on the film, we really connected on such a deep level. The girl who plays Alice would sleep on my couch when we were filming because she lives quite far away, and like we would like lay awake at night and just like have these heartfelt conversations about all these things, and we barely knew each other prior. And also, the man that plays Caroline's father, he also like opened up about all these things from his life, and like had these we had these really strong, heartfelt talks, and bonded. Like also when there's a generational gap and you still bond that way, that's like so powerful in itself, I think.
It's so powerful. So do you think that Accession, because it's such a um we're such a big topic, such a we're getting real, we're going for the jugular with the meaningful subject matter straight away, right? What happens after death, and death itself. Do you think that that helped you guys strengthen each other's straight off the bat? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. Because I had known the man who plays Caroline's father for many years prior, and it was during this shoot that we really got close. Like nowadays, whenever we see each other in the streets, we get really happy to see each other, and we always hug it out, and we're like so much warmer in our interaction than we were prior. And it's the same with the girl who plays Caroline, the girl who plays Alice. Like we're like we have this almost family type bond because we were part of this filming that I've never experienced in on any other film project prior. So I think you're onto something there. It's the subject matters that really disarms people.
It does, and it strips away all the small talk first. You know what I mean? Like, let's get straight in. Jump in with 2 feet. You really want to get to know somebody. Let's talk about these big subjects. And you started that discussion with Accession. What happens after death? We're looking at what happens to people who are left behind. We're also, what's happening afterwards. We need to talk about these things because if you don't, they get pushed under the carpet. And then that's where, I personally believe maybe that's where, maybe more of the sadness lies. If we make him more accepting and open and Swedish, I think, and you're right, where like you've just done with Accession, where we're putting that conversation on the table
Hmm.
and get really saying, I want to get to know you. Let's talk real.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think once you do that, and once you strip away all these fake, phony, pretentious roles that we have, and like really get down to what we can all unite together around like subjects like death, life, family, like then you really can't hate each other at that point the same way people do nowadays. I feel like people would realize that we're not all that different. Like if you think about it, you and an earthworm are not really that different either. Like you are a flower. Like we're all really all about like there's like family, there's life, there's death, there's reproduction, like all these core things. They exist like so much further than people realize, I think.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. So listen, this is great. What are you thinking about? Why Brighton Rocks? Why Brighton Rocks to
Hmm.
submit to?
Well, when I first sent out my first film, Their Drifting Thoughts, I really was captured by that it seemed to have a lot of like an indie spirit, and to a large degree it was just that I thought like I think I may have a shot here. I think that's like it wasn't much more to it at that point. But then I sent it there and I was accepted there, and I decided that I wanted to go because I read a bit about the festival and it seemed really nice. I went there and I was like really amazed with like how it felt like such a small, intimate, like it had like both the spirit of when you go to an event like something like a friend's birthday party that is thrown together in an hour, and at the same time this feeling of like a large festival at the same time. And that really captured me. Like it's very intimate of a festival. And so that's when I felt like next time I make a film, I'll definitely keep Brighton in mind for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope that you do. And I'm so glad that you're going to come because it's going to be fun. And there's a lot of people like good people to chat to, and yeah, have some really good conversations with as well. Yeah, and I can't wait to see what they think about Accession as well.
Right. Well, I was very flattered last time because all the films that I saw that I hadn't made were so good that I was like, wow, I'm in really good company here too. Like all the films that were screening were phenomenal.
Yeah, we got some real bangers this year too. So yeah, yeah. Great. Well, any last thoughts about that you want to say about the film itself, or we've covered a lot?
I feel like possibly, I guess, I could go into the fact that like just making visually making this happen, we had to build a set for it. So we built that in my parents' garage with the help of my dad and our producer, uh, and we just built and built and built, and we nearly gave up on it because it was so hard to make it even stand up properly and make the door functioning and stuff like that. And eventually, after a lot of swearing and a lot of arguing and a lot of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears, we actually managed to make some sort of a cottage set, and we built it in a gym hall. So I think that was a very cool experience for me.
Wow. I'm so glad you brought that up. So you actually built that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's completely like all the walls are removable because I was shooting the whole thing anamorphic as well, and so I needed so much space. There was like, there's no way I can shoot this in a small cottage. Like, there's just no way. Like, so
Wow.
then I would have a really wide angle the whole time, and I didn't want to do that. So I was like, okay, let's just build it, I guess. And I didn't realize how hard that would be. If I did, I don't know if I would have. So I'm glad I didn't know.
Yeah, but now that you've done it, I mean, it must be really satisfying.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's incredible. So who came up with the design? You.
Uh, mainly our producer, but also my dad stepped in with his expertise. Like he is a bit of a hobby, like carpenter. He will build things, and also our producer is, but they like don't have any professional knowledge, either of them, and neither do I. So we just had to kind of guess what to do. But it turned out really nice. I think we ended up shooting for 17 hours, also, mind you, for that cottage scene. So
W Wow, wow, wow,
yeah,
wow. Yeah, no, well done.
thank you,
That's really interesting and really incredible that you did that, and it was really effective. I
thank you.
yeah, I just thought you shot it in a cottage,
You're right.
that was it. Yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't have
hear
even a
it.
dream that it was a build set. I wouldn't
Yeah,
have. So that's really great. That's so cool.
I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Nicholas. Thanks so much. I'm
Yeah.
going to shut this off now,
Yeah.
but we can't wait to see you at Brighton Rocks. Thanks so much for Accession. It's
Well, thank
brilliant.
you. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to stop this.
Yeah.
There we go.